For our second not so serious panorama technique, we're going back to that row of houses in Cozumel in Mexico. What I did after I'd shot my serious panorama sequence is I shot another panorama sequence, but this time I tilted the camera this way and that as I shot the sequence, so each of the images is at a different angle to each other image. And we're going to assemble that into a really funky but really attractive panorama. We're going to use pretty much the same method as we did earlier with one change. So I'm going to choose File and then Automate and then Photo Merge. And because I have all my images open, I'm going to click Add Open Images. And these are all the images that I want to merge. I'm going to use Auto again, but the difference this time is that I don't want Photoshop to blend my images together. So I'm going to disable this option and click OK. And this is the panorama that Photoshop has created for us. As you can see, it hasn't blended any of these images into each other and it hasn't neatened anything up. In fact, if we look in the Layers palette, all it's done is arranged and rotated these images, but that's all. Now we're going to create a slightly funky panorama from this display, and we're going to start by adding a new layer to the bottom of the layers stack, and I'm going to fill it with black. Black is set as my foreground color, so I'm going to Alt Backspace or Option Delete on the Mac to fill the background layer here with the foreground color. And then I'm going to add a layer style to each of the image layers. So I'm going to select one of the image layers to start off with, and I'm going to click the Add a Layer Style button and choose Stroke. I'm going to choose a color and I'm going to make it white. And I want the size to be big enough so that I can see it. So I'm just looking at this image here to see if it's enough of a white border around it. In actual fact, I'm going to place the border inside the image so it has nice square corners. So I think that's a pretty good border. So I'm just going to click OK. Now I could go ahead and add that stroke effect to all the other images, but I think I will in actual fact also add a drop shadow. So let's go into the drop shadow and let's apply a drop shadow to this image. Now for now I just want to see the drop shadow, so I'm going to choose a color that I can see, and let's just go into normal mode and let's spread it and give it some distance. So I think that's pretty good for a drop shadow. Now I'm going to set its color to something more appropriate. I can't see it on the black background, but I'm going to see it on all the other images. So I'm just going to click OK to accept it. So now this layer here has not only a drop shadow, but it also has this stroke outline. So I'm going to select the effect, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose Copy Layer Style. Now I'm going to select all the other layers in the image, right click and choose Paste Layer Style. And that pastes that same layer style onto all the other layers. So having created it once, I didn't have to create it again. What I can do too is that this image here looks a little bit small. So I'm just going to select the layer that it is on in the Layers palette. So that's this layer here. I'm going to select the Move tool and I'm just going to enlarge it. Since this isn't a very serious panorama at all, it doesn't really matter too much what I do to the images in it. So I'm going to grab some other images in the collection here and just size them and perhaps move them out of alignment. I might even rotate them a little bit. And what I'm seeking to achieve here is a slightly funky look to my panorama. I'm not taking this too seriously because it wasn't shot to be taken seriously. It was shot so that I could create something a little bit more artistic from it. And I could continue working on it, but we'll just close this down for now so that you can see the result. The result is a slightly funky looking panorama. It's as if we printed each of these images out onto photo paper, and then we threw them in a sort of haphazard way onto our work surface. So there's the second not so serious panorama technique.